All right. Welcome to the Viking Age podcast. I'm your host, Adam Patrick. I'm the editor and lead writer for thevikingage.com. And as always, I'm joined by Chris Schad, who writes for us here at the Viking Age, as well as zone coverage and bring me the news. Before we start today's show, make sure to subscribe on YouTube if you're watching, subscribe to our channel, and like this video. And also make sure to follow the Viking Age on Twitter and on Facebook. All right. Before we get into anything else, Chris, I wanted to wish you a happy 18th anniversary of the disgusting act known as the Randy Moss Moon in the Vikings 31-17 win over the Packers in the first round of the 2004 playoffs. Did you watch that live? Did you watch that?
Oh yeah, I was so what year was it? It was
Junior? Wait, I was a
2004.
I was a junior in high school.
Yeah. So I think I was a junior
How
in
old are
high
you?
school. I am 36.
Yeah, I'm 35. So yeah.
So I was either junior or senior, one of the two. But yeah, we went to Buffalo Wild Wings, a very classy establishment. But I don't know. Like I would have. It would have been more fun to watch an actual bar, like I did the 2009 NFC Championship game. But I remember the big screen they showed it and Moss doing the moon, and like I remember just looking at it and seeing him doing it. And my friend was like, "Dude, Randy Moss pretended to pull his pants down. Like that's awesome. Like just this little thing." And we couldn't hear the commentary of
Right, you
Joe
couldn't.
Buck like
Yeah.
having an aneurysm. And next thing you know,
Yeah.
we get home and it's like everywhere else, and like people are like wagging their finger or whatever. If Randy Moss were on defense, he could have done something like that.
Yeah.
But
So if you didn't hear it live, then did you hear? Did they play like on the news or like on Sports Center or something like that?
on the news or Sports Center, I mean, obviously I heard it at some point.
Yeah.
Maybe it was like K-Fan or something, but
Yeah. Okay.
yeah, I
Yeah.
mean,
Yeah. It was
and they said too, I think Tom Pelissero was on a podcast and he was talking about it, and they said like Joe Buck might have thought he was like
actually mooning.
wiping his ass on the goalpost
Yeah.
or something like
Yeah.
that, and
Yeah.
that's why he said it was disgusting. But yeah, kind of an overreaction, but still one of the greatest touchdown celebrations in history. Although I absolutely loved Joe Mixon's coin flip on Sunday. I
Oh
thought that
yeah.
was hilarious.
Well.
And he'll probably get fined for it because he's on offense and
Yeah.
that's a prop. But
Um.
he's on
Funny.
defense, it's fine. But,
Side note for that. Just found out the other day I'm blocked by Joe Mixon, probably because every time I see him come up or anything, I mentioned that he sucker punched a girl in the face in college, so he probably didn't like that. Well, don't do it if you didn't like it. I was
yeah.
looking to see that the Vikings were 6-point underdogs in that 2004 matchup against the Packers. I just remember like they weren't supposed to win, and they went up 17-0.
Yeah.
And the game was basically over.
That
So
was the Afros game too.
yep,
The
yep, yep,
America's
yep.
Finest receivers on Sunday, and everybody
And
had the big afros. And
Justin Jefferson did that yesterday.
yeah, hopefully he keeps it for the playoffs because
Yeah, I don't know.
we could use
Is
that.
KJ Osborne? Yeah, KJ Osborne has dreads. So he could do it probably if he wanted to. I don't know if on the last time he probably like undid his hair or if he can even do that.
Yeah.
And then I don't know who else has it. So it would be Adam Thielen obviously can't do it.
Go get an afro from a Halloween store.
That
put it under your helmet.
that probably wouldn't go over too well in this day and age. But moving on to the Vikings beating the Bears yesterday. They did play a game, week 18. They beat the Bears. They got their second, I guess, 2-score victory over. Was it 2? Yeah, it was 2. It was 2. So
Yeah.
16 points. So they got their second 2-score victory of the year. Got the first one in week 1. Got the second one, week 18. So better late than never. They won 29-13 over the hapless Bears, who were they were not trying to win. They were like, we can get the number 1 pick. And they made a phone call to Lovey. when the game was about to end in Houston. They're like, go for 2, and he did it, and then they got the number 1 pick. But yeah, the Vikings, they gained 482 total yards on offense. Kirk Cousins threw for 225 yards in the first half. They held the Bears to just 141 passing yards. Most of the starters played the first half. The Nick Mullins and people came in the second half. Nick Mullins looked pretty decent, actually, for just back up. If he had a full week of preparation, I feel like I wouldn't be too worried about him if he had to go in there. 13 different players touched the ball on offense, so everybody got some action yesterday. Pretty meaningless game overall. Had a like you said, even leading up to the game, it's going to have like a preseason feel, and it did. But were there any encouragements or concerns from this game? I don't think anyone got really that hurt. I know Chandon Sullivan and Dalvin Cook kind of went down a little bit, but nothing too serious, I don't think.
Yeah, the Dalvin Cook ankle tweak was a little concerning for me, especially since they brought him back. And
It was
I'm
his
like,
knee. He got hit in the knee with a
yeah,
cleat.
his knee. So maybe it was just like
He got cut with a
knocking
cleat.
kneecaps or something. Oh, okay, that's what
Yeah, and
happened.
they couldn't stop the bleeding. That's why they wouldn't let him back in. But then they did let him back in.
Gotcha.
But yeah, he didn't have to come in at all. He didn't have to come back at all. Like what?
Right.
Like, he's not gonna be, like ready for next week if he doesn't get those 2 more snaps in the first half against the Bears. But yeah. So anything you take away from yesterday?
The offensive line still a bit of a concern, especially with the playoff opponent now, the New York Giants.
Yep.
They love to blitz. They send a lot of pressure.
Yep.
Kayvon Thibodeau could be going up against either Blake Brandel or Oli Udo on the right side.
Yep.
And then I don't know what they're going to do at center because Chris Reed still doesn't know the snap count. That's a problem. I don't know.
Bradbury's practicing on Wednesday. That's what O'Connell said today. He's going to practice.
So yeah, hopefully they get well, and that's what you have to worry about too. Like, is Bradbury practicing, and then does it go well? Like, there's 2 hurdles to clear here, and then there's a third in the game where I don't know, Bradbury plays, and all of a sudden it's like, oh my back is not good.
Right.
That's going to be really interesting leading into the game. Red zone, a little bit concerning, especially that drive at the end of the first half where most of the starters were in. Kirk, what are you doing? Why are you throwing in the middle of the field? I mean, that was a little dumb. And then
Dalvin was just like laying on the ball.
Yeah, that was a little weird. Not the weirdest field goal attempt we saw on Sunday. We'll get to that a little bit later, I think. But I don't know. I mean, I got into the game. I didn't even want to watch it, to be honest. Like, I know I get paid for takes and all that stuff, but I mean, I just was like not excited for this game. Let's get to next week. Let's see who our playoff opponent is, and let's go from there. So, I mean, I'm not sounding the alarm on anything because here's something that could be too, that maybe Kevin O'Connell went in with a preseason playbook and just said, let's see what happens. He might have done that against the Packers as well and just didn't want to tip his hand. And I mean, I don't know if that means we're going to see more Dalvin Cook halfback passes, which please God, no. But I don't think the Vikings brought their full bag of tricks to Chicago.
Did they run an end around? I think they ran an end around yesterday with Adam
Thielen. That was a little weird.
If that wasn't a sign that this isn't what we're going to be running in the playoffs, then I don't know what is.
Put it in the back of their mind, like we could do it. If we need
careful.
3 yards. We got 3 yards.
3 if you're lucky.
He did. I think he got 6 on that play. So I mean,
6.
I don't know. Like, you usually want to do that with like your fastest player, right?
Yeah, but they did. I think they ran a screen with Kene Nwangwu, and that went actually pretty well. And I'm like, what?
I saw that.
Why hasn't this been done? Like, you guys have sucked at screens all year. Why haven't you tried, Nwangwu in there? And I think Ty Chandler got some action yesterday too. So I don't expect either of those guys to be on offense in the playoffs. So even if they might help, I'm curious about Jalen Naylor. I wonder if they might throw him in there for a downfield shot or something a couple times. And then Irv Smith too. Nice to see him back out there. And then it was good, I think, on the defensive side of the ball to see those guys get some reps because it'll be good to keep a lot of those older guys fresh. Duke Shelley showed up again. I mean, where did they find this guy?
That's one
And
hell of a pickup. Like
he's
between him and I mean, I'm not, I don't think Duke Shelley is going to be like Darrell Revis or
no.
Deion Sanders or anything in his career. But for this season, right now, the way he's playing, it's like that's a hell of a scope. Like you also got Kyrus Tonga, who has been a solid player along the defensive line. I mean, the Bears, what are you doing? Like really,
Trying
like
to
I
get the first.
understand, Ryan.
They're trying to get the first pick. They thought Duke Shelley was like, oh, he might be good. We got to get rid of him. That's pretty much.
You're
Come on,
too
that's
good. It's like
yeah.
Major League where they just let everybody walk and they give everybody like a list of players. And this guy goes, "This guy's dead," and he goes, "Cross them off." Then
Listen, I mean, why did they put Tim Boyle in?
the laser
Like
show.
Nate, it's not like Nathan Peterman. Like Nate Peterman wasn't playing terrible. I don't think he's just the Bears. They weren't playing that well. But like, I wasn't like, oh man, they need to get Nathan Peterman out of there. Put Tim Boyle in there, who like basically punted the ball to Patrick Peterson, threw him that pick. But it's
Yeah,
just like it's a little obvious that you guys are trying to lose. like,
yeah. What do
and
they?
then
So what do they do with the number one overall pick? Because I was having this conversation with a friend of
yeah,
mine,
I mean,
and
you lost all those games.
you have to look at what's his name?
Justin
I'm
Fields.
blanking. Bryce Young.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, Bryce Young. Am I getting that right?
Yeah.
Yeah. It's been a long week, guys. You
Yeah.
have to look at Bryce Young at 101 because I don't know. Justin Fields looks a lot like a faster Christian Ponder, especially when you look at his stats. And I love Justin Fields coming out. Don't get me wrong, but I mean, my friend's like, well, you could trade down to 2 and then you could trade down again because you have so many needs. I'm like, oh, the Spielman method. Okay.
Yeah, I mean, I think the Bears have a lot of needs, so I think they probably will look to trade down and get multiple picks. But yeah, like you lost all those games with Justin Fields for most of the year. And if he's the guy you want to build around, you only won 3 games with him. That's probably not good. I know he
No.
had literally no one to throw to. He had like Riley Reef blocking for him, who got dominated by Danielle Hunter all day on Sunday. It was like, been here before, seen this in practice a lot of times, so probably wasn't really looking forward to that. But yeah, like they got a lot of stuff to build, so I think you look at a team maybe like the Jaguars, who got Trevor Lawrence. They were terrible his first year. Well, it wasn't because of Trevor Lawrence; it was because of the head coach, Urban Meyer. But then you bring Doug Peterson in, and they win the division. Now they're what, like 8-9, 9-8. It's not the most impressive, but they had a pretty big turnaround. I think that's what you have to hope for if you're a Bears fan next year. It's just like
Well, and
be as
here's
good
the
as the
other
Lions were maybe this year.
And here's the other part of that too. You're like, okay, build around Justin Fields. All right, you're already 2 years into his contract. Like
Yep,
Bryce Young, in all likelihood, is going to be a very good quarterback in the
yep,
NFL. And
yep.
you get him on a rookie deal. Plus, you have all that cap space and all the picks that Poles accumulated. Like I'm just taking Bryce Young. I'm
It's
not reinventing the real wheel
yeah,
here. And everybody's like, well, you're only going to get a second round pick for Justin Fields.
okay.
Is he that? And if he goes somewhere else and he blows up, whatever, God bless his heart. But I mean,
I think they can get a first round pick. Like look at a team like
yeah,
the Ravens. Let's say Lamar Jackson leaves, they'd probably give something up for Justin Fields. You can plug him right in the same offense. So
with that mastermind coaching staff in Baltimore, Greg Roman just like, well,
here's a
Greg Roman is like the Ed Donatel of offense, where it's like my scheme. I'm not making adjustments. The players scheme.
I think Lamar Jackson's a perfect fit in like Miami, like the Dolphins. I think you chucking the ball to Tyreek Hill and Jalen Waddle. That's scary.
Fun to
Um,
watch.
I would love to see the Vikings go after him, but I just don't think he might. I don't think Lamar Jackson is a good fit for the offense that Kevin O'Connell wants to run. Like he's not gonna develop a running offense. I think like a running quarterback offense. I don't think he's gonna do that. Maybe, but I don't think so. I think he relies more on pocket passing. So Unfortunately, I don't think Lamar Jackson will be coming to the Vikings next year. But yeah, that was basically it from Sunday. The Vikings won 13 games this season. Only the third time in franchise history they've done that. Other two times were 2017 and then won 15 games in 1998. Both of those seasons ended in the conference championship. We'll see if the Vikings can do any better this year. Also taking place yesterday evening, was the Packers playing the Lions. Now, the Seahawks beat the Rams earlier in the day, which meant that the Lions could not make the playoffs. So everyone's like, oh, this is meaningless for the Lions. Like, they're not even going to try. The Packers, it's easy road in the playoffs. Well, somebody forgot to tell the Lions because the Lions beat the Packers, and the Packers are also not going in the playoffs along with the Lions, and the Seahawks made the playoffs. The Packers lost on their home field. They got swept by the Lions this year, which I remember in the first loss. I think in the press conference afterward, Aaron Rodgers was like, "You can't lose to a team like that," and the Lions have been holding that in all year. Like, oh, really? A team like that? And then they lost. So Packers, I think it's the first time since 2018 that they haven't made the playoffs. Where would you rank the Packers' loss last night among the most enjoyable parts of the 2022 season?
It's almost better when the Packers don't succeed and while the Vikings do. I don't know where it would rank. I was sweating bullets trying to put it together in newspaper when all this went down. But I mean, it feels good for Vikings fans because, I'm thinking of one word and it's fraudulenta, not fraudulent, fraudulenta. And I think of it that way because
a really good DVOA.
Who's the real frauds? Who wound up being the real frauds in this scenario? Because this is like last year's Vikings. This is or 2020 Vikings, where you just have a bad start and then we got to get back to 500. And I said it a couple weeks ago. Who did they beat? They beat Baker Mayfield, and he had been there for less than 10 days. They beat Miami because their quarterback was concussed and thought his name was Granola in the second half. They beat Chicago with fast Christian Ponder and the Bears. They
beat the Vikings with a pick six and a kickoff return.
Yes. Yeah. And I don't know. Maybe fraudulent was sounding the conch shell and everybody was like that. But I mean, not only seeing the Packers lose, but seeing them implode was another layer of this that just made it more enjoyable for Vikings.
Was it Quay Walker?
Quay Walker, that's shoving a trainer, which great week to do that, by the way.
This week, yeah.
Yeah, I was going to make a joke, but I'll just say it off air. But, he's going down the tunnel and it was like putting your kid on timeout where he's like, I didn't do anything. Why?
He wasn't the only one, though. There was 2 or 3 of them that were going up and trying to be tough guys to a trainer. And it's like, dude, what are you doing?
And then there's Rasul Douglas, who I don't even know. Pat McAfee was watching. He's like, F it. I'm just going to grab the football here. They lost their minds. They self-destructed. Yeah. And Matt LaFleur, you can see it in him. You can see it. He does not know what to do when things go wrong. And I know Matt LaFleur's win-loss record is great. They were what the Vikings are this year, where you're just I don't know how this is a 13-win team, but they got a home field. So yay. And this is the guy who got to Tennessee as offensive coordinator. Saw Derrick Henry stand to Deion Lewis and be like, we're splitting carries. What? What are you doing, dude? And interviewing him, they're talking to him Dan Campbell's we don't want him to get in. I freaking love Dan Campbell, by the way. I know he's got the Vikings number in a little way, but he is so awesome in that again, it's Homer Simpson running the power plant energy. he's probably like, we didn't even look at the score. They probably did. But I mean, they're just like, let's establish some momentum. I'm like, what's another loss to the Lions at this point? They have a quarterback that they like in Jared Goff. They have weapons around him. They can go get some defenders in the middle of the first round. I like what Detroit is doing. And I don't know. I think a lot of the Lions' success comes from their assistant coaches. So if a lot of those guys like Ben Johnson and I believe Aaron Glenn's the defensive coordinator, if those guys don't get poached,
Ben Johnson's gone. He's gone for sure.
Yeah, and I
a
don't
young
think,
offensive assistant. Come on, he's out of there.
Right, and I think like Dan Campbell's strength, he knows a lot more about football than he lets on. Like people just think he's like some big dumb meathead.
He eats footballs. Yeah.
Yeah. He literally eats footballs and kneecaps. Yeah. Footballs for breakfast and kneecaps for dinner. But I think that his strength is more get the players to play hard and surround him with like Ben Johnson's young masterminds who are rising stars in the coaching business and have them kind of do the heavy lifting with X's and O's and just kind of oversee everything. I think that's what Dan Campbell's strength is. And I mean, hell, let's see what happens with the Lions next year. I mean, there's a lot of reasons to be optimistic, but
isn't that like what some of the best head coaches do in like NFL history? Think about it, like the Bill Belichick, like, yeah, he ran the defense for a while, but eventually he turned it over, and he didn't really have a whole lot to do with the offense and special teams and stuff, and he was just really there to just, like, hold everyone together, like keep things together, make sure the ship doesn't sink, make sure everyone keeps their their focus on what's important. There's plenty of other guys too, like even look at Pete Carroll. It's kind of the similar way where he could run the defense. I'm sure he has a bunch of input on lots of stuff, but it makes you think. Like you look back at Mike Zimmer, and he probably had his hand a little too deep in the defensive side of the ball, where he was calling the plays and stuff when he could have probably just let someone do that, and he could have focused more on some other things that would have maybe kept him around. But at the same time, I'm kind of happy he left because the Vikings just won 13 games. But yeah, it was just it was also very enjoyable to go online and just. I don't like to talk trash until stuff actually happens. I'm not somebody who's gonna be like, we're gonna beat the Packers in the playoffs, or I can't wait to see them in the playoffs again. Like I don't do that. I wait till things happen. Then afterwards I'm like, oh, what happened? Looks like your Super Bowl was week and you forgot to worry that there was another game. So yeah, I enjoyed that. I'm not even gonna lie. I enjoyed going on Twitter and being a troll for good hour or two last night after the game.
And even too, like it just seems so sleazy and set up for the Packers to get in the playoffs, didn't it? With the prime time game playing after the Seahawks, and all the announcers being like, "Oh, they gotta play the Packers at home in Lambeau Field." Even Aaron Rodgers is doing interviews a couple weeks ago, like, "Well, there's a team at 500 right now." Well, you're not 500, buddy. You're actually looking up at them as you ride off into the sunset or whatever the hell you're going to do. It feels good. It feels good to see them fail. And I know that, that'll be Packer fan. Oh, typical Vikings fans, whatever. Okay. If there is a Packer fan that's not going to have a sick smile on their face when the Vikings probably, and I don't mean to be a pessimist, but I mean, they probably won't win.
Only
the Super
one
Bowl,
team
right?
wins, so it's a good chance.
Yeah. So if the Vikings lose in the playoffs, are you just going to say, well, no, they're going to troll the shit out of us.
Yeah. And I'd be like, well, at least they had a chance to actually lose in the playoffs. The Packers didn't. So, one last thing on Aaron Rodgers. Well, I'm going to ask you, like, are we done with Aaron Rodgers? But I want to go over some of his numbers. Kirk Cousins and Jared Goff both had way better seasons than Aaron Rodgers this year. His last two seasons, he was the league MVP. This year, he was not good. He averaged 40 passing yards less per game than he did a year ago. He threw 11 fewer touchdowns. He threw 8 more interceptions. His passer rating was 20 points lower. He threw for under 4,000 yards for the first time in a non-injured season since 2015, and they only won 8 games. So Have we seen the last of Aaron Rodgers, at least in the NFC North?
Well, it's so weird to see Packer fans right now because I saw a tweet this morning that's like, well, the Packers owe him $57 million, but this is the cheapest off ramp in the next 3. So time to do it is now. It's
Well, he
like
could walk away. He doesn't get
you're
that
just
if he walks
willing to
away.
eat. Yeah, and that's possible too. Like if you're another team, like let's just throw this out here because that's a hypothetical. Look at the draft order right now and tell me what team is going to be like, we'll give you a first for Aaron Rodgers. Like,
The
because
Colts.
the Colts will do it. But look at what's going on right now.
Yeah.
Because Detroit has LA's pick. That's a top 5 pick.
Seahawks. Yep.
The Seahawks have Denver's pick. Top 5, top 10, somewhere in there. Cleveland, you don't think they wish they had their first after seeing Deshaun Watson kind of flop around like a fish this year and have that situation spiral out of control? Like, you already have a quarterback that's got a couple of questions. Like, people didn't know, like, the questions with Russell Wilson. Like, there are rumblings, but it was blamed on Pete Carroll, right? Like, Pete Carroll, old curmudgeon, Russell fix everything. Let Russ cook, right? Well, Russ burned the damn house down when he was allowed to cook, so that didn't work real well. Like, Aaron Rodgers, it's like he's sitting up there with Lucy in the sky with dragons and all that stuff, and like, you trade, let's say Tennessee trades for him, he gets to, Titan Stadium and the walls are melting or something. I don't know, but like there's a buyer beware with Aaron Rodgers. And if you don't have like the perfect team and the ammo to do it, like, you might just be better off looking at some other pissed off quarterback, because I think that's going to be the number one name that's going to be rumored to be available this year. It's like Aaron Rodgers and nobody else.
Well, Tom Brady's a free agent, and Lamar Jackson is too. So I think those guys will hopefully, as far as the trade market, I think you're trying to say is like available. Yeah, I agree with that.
And Lamar Jackson's he's going to get franchised. I would be shocked if he actually hit the market.
But he doesn't want to play for the Ravens, so he's going to be like, sure, you can franchise me, but I'm not going to sign him. So, because I think he just wants a multi-year deal wherever he goes. Like a team like Washington or the Giants. The Giants is one I feel like. Because Daniel Jones is a free agent. Brian Dable's there. He had success with, like, the Giants. Like, they have nothing, and Brian Dable got them to the playoffs. Basically just by good coaching. Like, they didn't. I don't think they blew anyone really away. They beat the Colts a couple of weeks ago by a lot, but everybody does, except for the Vikings. They needed a 33-point comeback. Yeah, I don't know if he if he retires, he walks away from $60 million, but he's made over $300 million already in his career. So is money really is that what's driving him right now? I don't think so. I think this season's pretty demoralizing. I think he knows that a lot of his buddies that he wanted to bring back this year probably aren't going to be back next year. Packers are going to be younger next year. Does he want to come back? And like, there's a clip going around today of like Alan Lazard. He's just like, they're like, do you think like 12's coming back, Aaron Rodgers? He's like, I don't know, and I don't really care. Like, I'm worried about myself. So like, he's probably gone. He's going to get his money. So the Packers team's going to look a lot different next year, and I think they would be wise to try and figure out a way to move on to mutually part ways with Aaron Rodgers. And I think, to be honest, that DeMar Hamlin thing on Monday, I think is going to impact a lot of people's decisions this offseason, whether to keep playing or not, because a lot of people were like pretty freaked out about that, rightfully so, because the guy needed serious CPR on the field to stay alive. But I think that's going to impact a lot of people this offseason more than we probably think. So, real quick, let's just guess. Do we think he's playing next year? I'm going to say no.
Rodgers?
Yeah.
Maybe.
You can't say maybe.
Maybe. I don't know.
Is he going to do a Brady and retire for 3 months and be like, this sucks, I'm coming back?
Yeah. Like, I am not, if he does retire, I am
he doesn't
not
even have
counting
kids,
him retired
so like,
until.
Yeah.
Yeah, but he wants to like, Well, he said he wants
travel
to
the world.
go. Oh, traveled some other dimension probably or something.
Oh
Like,
yeah,
now he's got he's got his new hot girlfriend.
the
The
daughter of
Bucks
the like
owner's
Bucks
daughters.
owner. Yep, yep, yep. I saw that. I could see him going like you know who Jake Plummer is, right? The former Broncos quarterback and the
Mm-hmm.
Cardinals, Jake the Snake. He's got like
Yeah,
a
he's got
big
that
weed.
big weed farm or something,
I could
right?
see Rodgers doing that. Like he's got this $1 billion weed corporation. It's like, yeah, it makes sense.
Growing
Um,
ayahuasca or
yeah.
something. Just like, yeah, man.
Oh yeah.
All right.
The yeah. So yeah. Yeah. I just don't think he's back. I don't. I think this season probably the circumstances and everything like he was close last year to retiring. I think the Packers need to. I think the Packers were probably the team or the ones that had to convince him to come back more than he wanted to. And then they were like, "We'll give you more money," and he was like, "Well, okay." He came back, and it's just not. It's not even that great. Um, the last thing from this game, the Lions, they finished 9-8, 8-9, 9-8.
9-8.
Pretty good, pretty good. They started 1-6, finished very strong. How worried are you about them next season in the NFC North?
I think I already said it because I think it
Yeah,
depends on the assistants. Who is in Detroit next
yeah.
season on Dan Campbell's staff? Like, is it somebody else that kind of has this like young, kind of up and coming
Mm-hmm.
offensive mind? Is the pupil of Ben Johnson or Aaron Glenn? Like, I know they got a lot of big names on that coaching staff. I mean, maybe Deuce Staley becomes
Deuce
the
Staley, yeah,
offensive coordinator or
yeah.
something. Like,
I don't know.
yeah,
Yeah, you got Jameson Williams, who I think is going to be a much bigger factor next year. He almost had a long touchdown yesterday, but there was a penalty they called back on that. I'm curious to see what they do about Jared Goff. I think they bring him back because he had a pretty good season.
yeah.
But they have such a high pick. Like I'm just curious to what they're going to use that on. Because there's a bunch of good quarterbacks in the league. Do they draft someone and maybe develop him? Do they keep building up that defense? Maybe go after like a top corner or another defensive lineman. Do you add to the offensive line? Like they have a good of like I don't know. They have a lot of good players. I don't know what you use that high draft pick for, but maybe they trade out of it and get more picks. They like to trade within the division too, with like the Vikings. But I think they're on the up and up. I do. I think they're the biggest threat to the Vikings next season. I think the Packers are trending backwards. I think the Bears are maybe heading in the right direction. We don't know, really. But the Lions are heading in the right direction, and then you got the Vikings who won 13 games. So I think they're the biggest threat for sure as far as the top of the NFC North goes next year. Injuries permitting and all that stuff. But I, and they're fun. Like when they're not playing the Vikings, I like watching the Lions. They're fun to
Yeah.
watch. Their coach is fun. Their players are like Jamal Williams is hilarious. I don't know if you saw his intro for Sunday Night Football last night. That was hilarious. And his speech, or not speech, but like his interview after the game where he just did like a complete like 180 after he was crying about his great grandfather dying, and then he like got an immediate straight face and he was like, "But don't play with us because we're the Detroit Lions, like don't mess with us. We heard all the people picking the Packers, we're the Lions." And yeah, they're a fun watch. And I saw somebody say that they should definitely be on Hard Knocks again because that would be must watch because I think they're just a fun team.
Yeah. If you just quick Twitter. Oh, sorry.
What?
Oh, you were talking
No.
and sorry, that's my bad. But I was just gonna say Jamal Williams, if you follow Gina Trotman, who's at WXYZ, she actually was in Rochester at KAL when I was at the Dodge County Independent, but now she's covering the Lions and doing a very good job of it. So if you follow her, you'll see some Jamal Williams clips there. Pretty damn good. That's what I wanted to say.
All right.
But
Check
also go
that out.
follow Gina.
Yeah, that's I. If they weren't in the NFC North, I feel like it'd be a lot more fun to root for them. And I'm also thankful they beat the Packers. It's always enjoyable when someone beats the Packers, especially a division rival, especially someone who Aaron Rodgers doesn't even give the time of day. He thinks they're worth nothing, and they're like, fine, we'll just beat you anyways. So it was a very enjoyable Sunday, even if it was kind of boring for the Vikings. All right, so the Vikings won and the Niners won. So the Niners get the 2 seed, the Vikings get the 3 seed in the NFC, which means they will be hosting the New York Football Giants in the first round of the playoffs inside US Bank Stadium next Sunday, 3:30 p.m. Central Time, not noon. Sorry, Kirk Cousins. The number one Fox announce team is covering. What's that? Kevin Burkhardt and Greg Olsen, Aaron Andrews, Tom Rinaldi. They're all. I think the only game they did for the Vikings was the Packers game, Week 1, and then the Vikings won that game. So
I think you're right.
So far, so good with that team. The Vikings are favored right now by 3 on FanDuel. Vikings are undefeated so far this year, 12-0 whenever they're favored. So that seems like a good sign. Just right now, what's your confidence level in the Vikings beating the Giants on Sunday?
It's leaning towards beating them. I don't think it's like all the way over because that was an intense game. And like we said earlier, there are some things that we should be concerned about moving forward, like that offensive line, the pass rush. Wink Martindale, who sounds like a game show host. I think there's a game show host with the same name.
Ooh, Wink versus Harry Styles, part 2.
Wink versus AJ Styles. What? I'd pay to watch that actually. But yeah, I mean, their pass rush is an issue. Offensively, I mean, Saquon Barkley, I mean, you make one mistake, he could go to the house. We saw that in the first game. But I mean, the first meeting, the Vikings kind of were in control for most of the game. I mean, it was a little bit of a white knuckle ride, but you never felt like things were getting out of control, which is kind of like most Vikings games. And I don't know if New York's got the offense to go randomly hang a 40 burger on the Vikings and blow them out of the game. I think of any game that stays close, I feel confident about this team. If the team goes out and they get blown away by 30 points in the first half, I'm not feeling so great. But I mean, I don't think the Giants can do that, especially offensively. So if the Vikings go out there, get an early lead, I think they can win this game.
I was going to say, well, we didn't think the Colts could do that, but they did that too. So you never know sometimes. But yeah.
But I will say this about the Colts game. The Vikings gave them short fields all the way through the first half.
They're like, it's 4th down. We should go for it on our 30-yard line.
Frustrated Madden player, just like, screw it.
You didn't mention Kenny Golladay. He had a touchdown yesterday for the Giants. I think.
Did he get his 75 catches to get his bonus or whatever it is?
I saw those memes.
What a bust!
He only needs 75 catches to get a bonus on Sunday.
Jesus,
he's making plenty of money. He didn't even need that bonus. So yeah, I feel fairly high. I would say confidence wise in the Vikings. Even I would say I still feel pretty good, even if Garrett Bradbury doesn't play. I think Chris Reed wasn't terrible yesterday. I think I looked at PFF. His grade was like in the 60s, but like he only gave up 1 pressure in pass rush. But I think the thing too, like we worry about, backups playing. If Kevin O'Connell, I think, has a week to prepare, they're much better off. Like you think of was it the Cowboys game when Darisaw went out? And they put Brandel in there, and he was just like getting annihilated,
overmatched.
Yeah. And then the next week, they developed. They had a game plan where they helped him. I think it was against the Patriots, and the Patriots had like the best, the guy league leader in sacks, and they stopped him with Brandel, and they had a plan for it. So I think like if O'Connell has a whole week to prepare, then it's much easier for them to do well. But yeah, I feel fairly confident. Like you said, they were in control for most of the game, even though they won by 3 in week 16. I think I looked it up. The Vikings were leading or the score was tied for more than 50 minutes of the 60 minutes in regulation. So that's pretty good. And yeah, like the Giants, they don't have offensive firepower. I think the Vikings can throw some wrinkles at them that they have been probably storing, like Kevin O'Connell's been storing some stuff for the playoffs, probably that he hasn't been showing the last few weeks, just to be ready. Like even defensive wise, who knows what they could do? Maybe they'll blitz. Let's not get too crazy.
The
But yeah,
scheme, though, gotta stick with the scheme.
yeah, I feel fairly confident that they can do it. Now, if they lose to the Giants, will this season be looked at as a failure for the Vikings?
I think so. I mean, I think the front office will see it as a success because they got in the playoffs. That's what they want to do. Like that's goal number one is just make the
Yep.
playoffs every year. But I mean, to be in this position, I think you got to win a playoff game. I think you have to beat the Giants. And I mean, this is two rookie head coaches. So I mean, Kevin
Yep.
O'Connell's got a bit of an edge there. Brian Dable has had a lot of experience with the Bills in playoff situations. So maybe that gives him a bit of an advantage here.
O'Connell was in the Super Bowl.
Yeah, that's true. I forgot about. Okay, I'm an idiot. Don't listen to me. But I would say if they go out and they get blown out by 40, they have to think seriously about making changes to this roster. And I think some of them are coming. I think there's going to be some moves that kind of raise some eyebrows this offseason either way. But Yeah, Ed Donatel, maybe some players being jettisoned or restructured. I don't know, maybe pay cuts somewhere. I'm thinking of someone in particular. But yeah, I just
Man of the year.
If they don't get to the next round, I mean, if they win Sunday, I think they have to win Sunday. That it would suck to lose on Sunday. Like that's just putting it in fan terms. Like it would just suck because you're not going to remember a season like, oh yeah, that was awesome. And then we got crushed by the Giants. Go win.
Yeah, I think the Giants have actually a lower point differential than the Vikings this year. We've heard all about point differential this year, and the Giants actually, I think, have a -6 point differential. I think Kevin Seifert tweeted that today. The Vikings haven't won a home game in the wild card round. Do you know when?
Home game in the wild card round.
It's been a long time.
Very long time. Wasn't 19. No. Divisional. That was a divisional one.
You're close. I know you're thinking
87?
No. 99. Jeff George.
Oh, they did play wild card in 99. Once I said 87, I started thinking about the Randall Cunningham game.
That was away
against the Giants.
Yep, that was on the road.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Jeff George.
Yep. Jeff George, 99. I think it was against the Cowboys. And they went on the road and got blasted by the Rams. That was not fun.
No.
But the last two were 2015. You were there. Blair Walsh game. Technically home. Technically not. Because in TCF, Bank Stadium outside. And then the other one was 2008 with Tavares Jackson against the Eagles at home there with Brad Childress. So it's been a while since they won the first round of the wild card round, but at home. But I think they can do it. I think they can snap that streak. As far as this season as being a failure if they lose on Sunday, I would say at this moment, yeah, I would agree with you. I think it would be a failure, but I think in terms, kind of like what you said, in terms of the overall picture in their first year with a brand new head coach, a brand new GM, I think they already feel like it's been a pretty good success, and they've got to be pretty excited about the future of this franchise, regardless of how Sunday goes. So I think that overall it's been a success. But yeah, you're 13-4, you're the 3 seed. You should beat this team on Sunday. But we'll see. You never know. Last question. It's the first round of play, Super Wild Card weekend next weekend. Games on Saturday, Sunday, Monday. And you got the divisional round, conference championship, Super Bowl. Let's just do early guesses right now. Who do you think is going to represent the AFC and the NFC in the Super Bowl?
I haven't even looked at the standings, man. This weekend's been
You
so
want me to
bad.
give
It
you want me
just
to give you
give me
the
the
playoff
seeds.
standings? Okay,
Yeah,
here we go.
who got home field in the AFC? Like I said, I've been in
Chiefs.
jackrabbit mode all weekend. So, congrats to the
Oh,
South Dakota State football team, by the
yeah.
way.
When's the last time they won the championship?
Never. They actually.
Really?
Here's the thing: they made a beer inspired by the team, and they finally won the big
Before
one.
I die.
Yeah, there could be another team that has another beer named after them. Maybe they can win the big one. I don't know.
In the AFC, number 1 seed, you got the Chiefs. Number 2 is the Bills. And I believe if the Chiefs and Bills play in the championship game, it'll be at a neutral site. Because the Bills would have had a chance to be the number 1 seed if the game against the Bengals was finished. The Bengals are the 3 seed. The Jaguars are the 4 seed. Chargers are the 5th seed. Ravens are the 6th seed. And the Dolphins snuck in as the 7th seed in the playoffs. Over in the NFC, you got the Eagles at the 1 seed, the Niners 2 seed, the Vikings the 3 seed, the Bucks the 4 seed, the Cowboys the 5th seed, the Giants the 6th seed, and of course the Seahawks, not the Packers, as a 7th seed.
Screw it. Let's go Bills, Vikings.
Ooh, yeah.
Why not?
I would love to pick the Vikings, but I just think I hate that this is my pick. The Bengals, because they won 8 in a row. They're on a tear. And the Niners. Like,
Sure.
the defense is just too good. Like,
Yeah.
you talk about, and they just got Deebo Samuel back. Kittle's healthy. McCaffrey's healthy. Like, I was expecting all these guys to be hurt. They're not. They're getting healthier.
Mm-hmm.
So I think Bengals and Niners. It's like did they play each other in like the 80s in the Super Bowl?
They
Like
did. That was the John Candy Super Bowl.
Yeah. So
Like, yeah.
Is that when he died?
No, that was where Joe Montana spotted him in the huddle.
Oh.
I think they were on like their own too, and like
I think
Joe Harbaugh goes,
Collinsworth.
is that John Candy up there?
I think Chris Collinsworth played in that game. One of those.
Yeah, he was the Bengals receiver. Here's a guy, but
oh man, did he wear a bib last night when he was talking about? Never. So I got the Bengals and Niners, and you got the Vikings. And I would love if your pick happens. I would, like, the football gods would lose their mind because they'd be like, we have no idea who's going to win this game.
asteroid just hits the planet.
Also, if the Bills get in the Super Bowl after what just happened, there is 0% chance they're losing.
Yeah.
0%. There is no way. Like, the first play yesterday was a kickoff return for a touchdown. Come on.
I think they returned a kickoff at 3:03 for a touchdown.
It was the first kickoff return in 3 years and 3 months.
Oh, gotcha.
Which is insane.
Crazy.
Yeah. So if they're not losing if they get to the Super Bowl. So I'll see. But that'll do it for us today. If you're watching on YouTube, make sure to subscribe and like this video. Also, follow Viking Age on Twitter and Facebook. And the audio version of this podcast will be available in the morning on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, iHeart, wherever you get your podcasts. But until next time, Chris and I talk to you later.